Graham G. Matthews here from WrestleRant Radio. We're talking to Jason Solomon, the Solomonster, here today. Ahead of a very busy week, not only just for him, the wrestling week itself, WrestleMania coming up, but Jason, you got a very busy schedule. You were just talking about this a second ago, but you got a live podcast next Thursday. Next Tuesday, you're doing an on-air spot. Next Friday, of course, what we're talking about here today, House of Glory. Jason, thanks for taking the time, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it has been. So when I hit
Yeah.
you up about a month ago about doing this, one, I knew you were busy, so I had to get you soon, early on to kind of schedule this. I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for anniversaries. I think it was almost exactly 10 years ago from the day we last spoke for a spot like this, talking just the podcast at this point, and now you're like the fucking busiest man alive 10 years later. So I
I
appreciate you
know.
taking the time, man.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So House of Glory, like I said, you're going to be very much responsible for the success of the show coming up next Friday. You're the commissioner, you're a commentator. Just to kind of run down the details here, Friday, April 5th, it's not competing with SmackDown, Super Card of Honor, any of that sort of stuff. It's actually earlier on in the afternoon at 3 p.m. that afternoon at the Trinity Center Urban Life, if I got that correct.
Hmm.
Biggest match in the card, Mustafa Ali, Amazing Red. It's a joint show with Wrestling Revolver. So just kind of take me through, Jason, as far as what people can expect, because I saw that Santana, who's the current champion, House of Glory champion, will be there. Alex Shelley, Sammy Callahan, the Rascals, among many other people, obviously. But just kind of take me through the show and what people can expect with this hot ticket for Mania weekend.
Well, we knew we wanted to do something tied into WrestleMania weekend and start to branch out a little bit. We run frequently, usually every month from the NYC Arena in Queens. It's sort of our home base. And the New York fans are fantastic. As House of Glory grows and wants to continue to grow, this is going to be the beginning of more road shows, and it just made sense. Philadelphia being a big wrestling city, WrestleMania coming to town, and doing something fun with another promotion, another indie promotion that has made headlines and is doing really well. Sammy does a tremendous job with it. It just made sense to bring the two together. And it's our first time, working together on an event with Wrestling Revolver, and we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know the first 3 rows are sold out.
Yep.
We have general admission seats that are still available, so if people want to attend, they can. But it's going to be a big afternoon.
Wrestling Revolver, you hear about a lot as far as like hot independent scenes right now, or hot independent promotions, and House of Glory as well. Just kind of talk about as far as being the commissioner and kind of being in a prominent role in the promotion, how you guys kind of stay in the forefront of being like one of the most talked about indie scenes, not only just here in the Northeast, because that's where I'm based as well. So I hear a lot about you guys, and obviously from hearing you talk about it, but just the entire United States as well, and a lot of the free agents from all these different promotions making time to kind of check you guys out and have awesome matches there and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to us. You want to have that mix, I think, of not only young talent, student talent that are in the midst of being trained and starting their journey, but also established talent so that you can draw people in and frankly just put together some of the best matches you possibly can. So we have big names from all over the wrestling world. We have big names that come in from AEW and TNA and some who are free agents who, make a stop at House of Glory. And that's, done by design because we want to have that mix. We have great student talent that will appear on the shows. We have talent that are veteran talent to hog, and you may see them on TV one day, but, they're kind of part of our core crew of guys. And it's great for them, too, to be able to work with some of the bigger names that we bring in. And so you look even at the most recent show that we had Mustafa Ali on that show against Alex Shelley, and we had Mike Santana against Penta. We've got Penta coming back. We have a show on Cinco de Mayo here in New York. He's going to be wrestling his brother, Ray Phoenix, right? That's a pretty big match. So it comes down a lot to putting together the attractions and the matches that you think people want to see. That's really what it boils down to. When you're an independent promotion, you got to sell tickets. That's the independent promotions don't have these guaranteed multi-billion dollar media rights deals. So it's kind of old school. And you have to just put together cards that people want to see. And thankfully, a lot of our shows, especially recent shows, the building is packed. And if you've ever been to a House of Glory show where it's packed, it just has a different vibe to it. When you're in the middle of that, and I'm wearing many different hats, I'm doing a lot of different things. So for me, it's very cool to be even a small part of that and to be out in front of that crowd. There's no feeling like it.
How difficult is it to kind of, you talk about balancing that, being the commissioner and the commentator, because you started out as a commentator, taking on the commissioner role just a couple of years ago. how difficult is it to kind of do both and also taking on an on-camera role? Because for the longest time, obviously, having done your podcast for almost 2 decades now, it was
Mhm.
just audio only, just hearing you on the podcast. Obviously, you've been doing the YouTube thing for a while now, but being in front of the camera, and then also, in addition, is still doing your commentating duties as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how things started. I going on 6 years that I've been working with House of Glory. It'll be 6 years this summer. And it just kind of started on a lark where, I was invited to come in and do a special pre-show that was being done before one of our big annual events, our summer show, High Intensity. And that went well. And I was sitting there and just watching the action. And I was invited to sit in and do commentary on one of the matches, which happened to be an Impact Wrestling World Title Open Challenge that was taking place on the show. Austin Aries was the champion at the time. And they had their crew. Again, it wasn't as if, oh, I have these great aspirations. This is what's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen. A lot of things in my life, they just sort of they are manufactured. It's almost like a happy accident the way it happens sometimes. And when an opening became available to do commentary on a full-time basis, I jumped at it. We've got a great crew. I get to work with, JD from NY, who does a tremendous job on play-by-play. I mean, his passion is just infectious for what he does. We have Dr. Hillary P. Wisdom. We won't talk about that guy. Nobody wants to talk about that guy. But, he's also doing stuff. He's managing and he's wrestling on the independent scene. So that's how that came about. And as far as the commissioner thing, again, it was an opportunity that came up to be able to, be a part of the show in a different way, but also have somebody in that position who could be viewed as impartial. And so not leaning one way or the other. And I play it pretty straight. So it just made sense that that would be the role for me. And then there's other stuff too. It could be pre-show interviews or backstage interviews, really whatever they need me for. It really is a collaborative effort. There's a lot of people involved on the audio end and the video end and just, obviously the talent that have to come together to put these shows together and make them a success. And like I said, if I could even be a small part of that, it's very cool to be part of a team where everybody is working for the betterment of the promotion.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the evolution of the promotion in the past 5 years, especially like since COVID, just the matches you guys have been able to get, the buzz you've been able to secure, the stars you guys have brought in is just massive, especially with the free agent market in wrestling being what it is. You have Alex Shelley on the show, obviously. He's soon to be a free agent in a couple weeks. Santana is now a free agent from AEW. I mean, these guys were already appearing for House of Glory while with these other promotions, Shelley with TNA, Santana with AEW. So just talk about that as far as like, is it difficult to secure some of these people with the promotions they're already working with and getting those dates down, or are they just prioritizing House of Glory and making it your job a lot easier?
Honestly, it's a mix of both. There are decisions made about bringing talent in that go above my head even. And so it can be difficult, from a scheduling perspective. But you have a lot of people who will come back. You see a lot of people repeating and coming back, and there's a reason for that because they enjoy working in front of that crowd. They enjoy working for the promotion. They know they're, going to be taken care of when they come in and they're going to be put with the right people and it just works. So that's why you see a lot of these names, whether it is a Santana, Matt Cardona was our champion, and you see Cardona all over the place. But for him to keep coming back, he obviously wants to do that. We've had other talent come in and say, without naming names, they'll say, look, whenever you want me, let me know and I'll work it into my schedule. I love working in front of these people. I love working in this venue. So really the challenge would be, I guess, more so scheduling than anything else. If they're working other independent shows or even if they are under contract to one of the bigger promotions, you have to be sensitive to that. But yeah, I mean, it's really a mix of both, and it's fun, when you could tell they want to be there. They're not just there. It's not just another booking. It's not just another weekend. That they enjoy being there, and they also want to be a part of what we're doing because what we're doing is exciting right now. When you see, like you said, the names that we're able to bring in, uh, you've got to be able to give them the right opponent and put them in the right situation. And we think more often than not, we're pretty good at that.
When you talk about your specific role as the commissioner and being the impartial authority figure on the show, is it important for you to stay impartial as opposed to, I know you've talked a lot over the years of like the overabundance in wrestling of authority figures on some of these shows, heel authority figures specifically. I feel like you're trying to do something different by not going down that route or being on these shows too often. And like even the cinematic stuff you guys have done, like every independent promotion might have a GM or something, but like that sort, I'm all over the place here, but like the cinematics here, I think you guys have also really excelled at. But as far as your role and not really going into that territory of doing what a lot of the mainstream promotions have done, other indie promotions, I feel like that's just the organic route that some people might take, but you specifically have kind of stayed away from that.
And I think that's by design. And that's not to say that it won't happen one day.
Sure.
But I think in doing that, when you think about something like that, having an authority figure, like you said, it's very cliche. The longest time it was played out, yeah, especially in the bigger promotions like WWE with the general managers, it just got to a point where I think they needed to get away from that for a while, which they did. Now they're back to it and it feels fresh again.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think they went in on that heel authority figure stuff a little too hard. I think it is important to have somebody who can just play it straight. If that changes at some point, if we feel like that's a direction to go in, then that's certainly, something we would entertain. But I do think it's important. I think you want somebody who has some degree of credibility with the fans, when it comes to making announcements and whether it's a match announcement or if in the middle of the show I have to leave the announce booth and go make an announcement about something that's happening on the show. I think that is important. I think you want to have somebody who can play that role.
As we wind down
And,
here, just
and
talking. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
and then before you say anything, you mentioned the cinematic stuff. I think that's one of the coolest things that we've done
Hmm.
in the last few years. And I've been a part of the filming of some of those. I was in a couple of them, and just to watch the process
Yeah.
and just sort of take direction, whatever you need. But like it's for somebody who's never done it before, when you kind of go hands on with it and you see what's involved in that, it's a lot of work. We have some very talented people involved in putting that together. But I think it sets House of Glory apart from almost any other independent promotion out there. You just don't see other promotions doing that. And if you do, typically it's one of the big promotions that has TV and has the budget to do so. That was one of the things I loved the most about Lucha Underground. It was the entire thing was cinematic. They created their own little cinematic universe, and I thought it was shot incredibly well. And there just wasn't anything like that being done on an indie level. And so that's one example of something that we've done and continue to do that I think sets us apart.
I was literally just about to say the Lucha Underground aspect, which I know you're obviously a big fan of. Does that make you Dario Cueto by design or no?
Oh, no, 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 no. I wouldn't go that far. I would love to be Dario Cueto.
Sure.
I would never put myself in the same category, but it's sort of the same idea,
Yeah.
I think, in a way. But yeah, no, I would, he's fantastic. And I know he's doing stuff now with MLW. I just think he to me was exactly what I wanted an
Yep.
authority figure to be in wrestling. Like he came along at just the right time. I thought it was perfect.
And he's the ultimate heel authority figure too. I mean, I feel like we need him on like a grander scale, whether it be, I don't know if they're just not interested, but like a WWE or an AEW or something like that. He's great in MLW, but I don't know. You just
Yeah,
need that
no,
bigger platform, you know?
yeah, he's fantastic. I know he's an actor. He's
Yeah.
done other acting work, so I don't know what his aspirations are, but I'm just glad he's still around doing stuff in wrestling.
Yeah, he's fucking great. But
Yeah.
when you talk about the roster that you guys have right now, a lot of these guys that are on your roster are not just talking about like the established names like the Alex Shelley's and the Santanas, but even someone like a bounty hunter, Brian Keith, just got signed to AEW
Hmm.
recently, and he was doing a couple shots in House of Glory not too long ago. A lot of these guys getting their start in House of Glory, Private Party many years ago. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, a part of AEW for the past 5 years. Just talk about the current roster, and I know as the commissioner you have to be impartial, but talking about names that you could see go on. And obviously everyone is the obvious answer, but big names that you're like, all right, that guy's going to be someone pretty big on a bigger level at some point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who I think one day people will be watching on their TV, whether it's NXT or AEW,
Hmm.
wherever it may be. Our current tag team champions, main event, Jay Lyon and Midas Black, have pretty big names on the independent scene. They've been at it for a while now. I think they have a tremendous act. I think they're great talents, and I think one day you will see them, at a higher level. We have our cruiserweight champion who just won the belt back, Casey Navarro. He was champion for a while, some time back. He's wrestled all over, I mean,
Hmm.
multiple promotions, not just House of Glory, but he only recently ventured back. He's our cruiserweight champion again. I think he's a tremendous talent. And I would be shocked if he doesn't land anywhere. And again, I don't want to name too many names because then I'll end up leaving people out. But
Yeah.
I think of people like Encore, and we have a young kid on our roster who's super talented, Raheem Royal. And again, there's a lot of names like that. And you can never know for sure how many will make it, to the top and how many won't. But I think the potential is very, very good that you will see some of these names on your TV screen in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I've seen Encore at Northeast Wrestling not too long
Mhm.
ago. He's great. You mentioned Casey.
Unbelievable athlete.
Yeah, no,
Unbelievable
he's got
athlete.
charisma for days too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised that, I think at some point, I mean, you're obviously every other company's loss is your guys' gain as far as using him for as long as you can before he, ascends to that next level, like you said. But
Mhm.
even like a Casey Navarro, I mean, I'm surprised that WWE didn't pick him up when they had the chance last year. I mean, seemingly he had a tryout and they didn't, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll
Yeah.
see.
I don't know. I don't know what goes into their decision making
Sure.
sometimes, but
Yeah.
like you said, their loss is going to be everybody else's gain for however long he's available for.
Yeah.
And we certainly love having him in House of Glory.
Your favorite match that you've called or excuse me, had a hand in kind of putting together for a show that you guys have had.
As much as I hate to give this man credit, because I feel like he was my nemesis for a while and still is, frankly. But one of the best talents in ring that we have on our roster right now is Charles Mason.
Yep.
And he was our crown jewel champion for a very long time, too long. And he had a match with his former heater, his former bodyguard, Carlos La Sombra Ramirez, several months ago. Of all the matches that I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to call, and I've called some cool things during my time. And I remember looking over at the other announcers, and we sort of all agreed that was the greatest match, I believe, in the history of House of Glory. And
Wow.
this was only a number of months ago. I had a role to play in that. Midway through the match, when it looked like the match might end in a count out, it might end some way that was not going to be very happy in the eyes of the fans. Yeah, I came out, restarted the match, made it no disqualification, and did not have any clue as to the level of insanity that I was about to unleash. There were some crazy things that happened during that match, but when it was over, Ramirez got the win. It was a star-making moment for him. He's another one of those talents who I think is on the rise. That to me, it's hard to vote for any match other than that one. I think that was certainly the craziest match that I've ever seen live in Hog or had the chance to call.
I think Ali and Amazing Red's going to give that one a run for its money
Oh
next
yeah.
Friday at this show. I mean, on paper, that just sounds absolutely fucking amazing. So,
Yeah, and the word, the term dream match gets thrown around a lot,
mhm.
but honestly, for a lot of fans, it is. It's a match that has never happened before. And I had the chance to interview Ali a little bit before our last show and asked him about that. And he talked about the fact, how much he respects Red. And, when he was coming up, the Amazing Red was an inspiration for him. But now his attitude is it's time for you to step aside
Mhm.
and make room for the new guard. And I think Red would probably have something to say about that. And having the chance to get to know him a little bit more working for Hog over the years has been tremendous. He's still training the talent of tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I can't think of a better person to learn from than him. So his influence is still felt in a big way. I think it's safe to say they'll have their working shoes on next week.
I think it's going to be a tough match to top over Mania weekend with all the wrestling
Yeah.
that we're getting next week. Rock can move aside. Cody Rhodes getting his
Right.
moment. Who gives a shit? I think this match is going to steal
Right.
the weekend or come close. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
No.
like I said, man, I appreciate you taking the time. It's going to be a big week coming up. Before I let you go, as far as the show
Mhm.
itself, like I mentioned, it's next Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Trinity Center Urban Life. All the details are online. You can buy tickets, like you said, first three rows sold out. I don't have it written down here for your Mania Week podcast as far as the
Mhm.
address, because when I heard you talk about it, I couldn't write it down as far as where it is exactly. But you mentioned the
Mhm.
Duncan Lounge in Philly. Just kind of give me some details on where people can check that out next Thursday around 1 p.m.
Yeah, and I'll post more information on social media as we get a little bit closer. But what I'm going to be doing that week is coming into Philly. I'll be there anyway for the Hog Show the next day. But the day before, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll be at the Duncan Music Lounge,
Yep.
which is at the iHeart Studios. It's technically in Bala Cynwyd, Pennsylvania. It's like right on the Philadelphia main line. Not too far from where all of the festivities are going on that weekend. We'll have limited space for Sound Off fans or any wrestling fans, frankly, who want to just show up. And I'm just going to be doing my WrestleMania predictions, which I always do predictions for the big shows. We were able to work it out where I'll be there. I'll be doing predictions. We'll make it interactive, maybe take questions from the audience. Maybe there'll be some other stuff. I don't know. We're waiting to see if I can confirm that. But that's going to be fun. That'll be 1 o'clock on Thursday, April 4th. And again, as we get closer, I'll post the address and any other information on Twitter at Solomonster.
Fantastic. In addition to all the obvious streams and reviews and everything else you got going on, the
Everything.
podcast on Sundays,
Everything.
it's going to be that's a crazy week, man, especially for your content alone. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. It's exhausting, but it's very fulfilling when you
Yeah,
have different things, as I'm sure you know, because you're also always, on the road, you're doing things. It's exhausting, but it's a lot of fun. And in the end, I'm sure it'll all be worth it.
exactly, man. Always a rewarding weekend is WrestleMania weekend, including all
Yes.
the stuff you just mentioned. But like you said, dude, everyone can check you out and all the obvious places in addition to those shows on YouTube. Solomonster Sounds Off, your podcast every weekend, the streams, and on Twitter for all the information, like you mentioned, at Solomonster. Jason, 10 years too long, man. I appreciate you coming back on to talk all things House of Glory and everything else.
Thanks, Graham. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Take care.
You too.